This video is brought to you by Bright Sellers. What's up, Wisecrack? Michael here to once again show the ultimate value of a decade spent studying philosophy is the ability to overanalyze TV shows about witches and robots. This time around, I want to talk about a surprising moment in the final episode of Wandavision, the Disney Plus series that explores what happens when trauma, advanced military weapons, and an unhealthy obsession with television all coalesce in a small New Jersey town. Now, it's not every day that a scene in a Marvel TV show gets everyone Googling philosophical paradoxes. So, the hungover adjunct who still lives deep inside of me was kind of jazzed about that. And warning, if you haven't seen the finale, come back later. I'm about to spoil a pivotal moment. Anyway, the scene in question involves two visions duking it out while asking some pretty intense questions about identity, all hinging on a paradox called the Ship of Theseus. So join me as I explore questions like, who's the real vision? Are you your mind or your body? And most importantly, who am I? No, seriously, who am I? Because sometimes I feel like it's a Truman Show situation and everyone's being nice to me, but maybe they're actors or they're paid, and it's like, do I have friends? Is my mom... Anyway, let's get into this Philosopher Reacts to Wandavision. And again, spoilers ahead. But before we continue, I want to tell you about an awesome deal from this episode's sponsor, Bright Sellers. Ever wanted to get into wine, but were kind of put off by the snobbiness of it all? Well, Bright Sellers can help you on your journey to become a connoisseur without the judgment from a pretentious sommelier. To order your first box, you simply fill out a quiz with questions like, what's your favorite flavor of juice? Or what's your favorite type of chocolate? It'll only take 2 minutes. Bright Sellers will then recommend a box of wine for you to have shipped right to your home. You can make changes or ship as is. Once it's there, you can read more about the wines with their special tasting cards that tell you all about the different notes or how to pair it. If you go to brightsellers.com/wisecrack2, like the number, or click the link in the description right now, you can get 50% off your first 6-bottle box. So check it out today. Now, back to the show. Today I'm looking at the final episode of the first season in which both visions, Wanda's vision and White Vision, take a break from blasting the shit out of each other to engage in a bit of old school philosophical speculation.
I request elaboration.
In case you've been avoiding the internet for weeks, there are two visions. One made by Wanda with her newly realized powers of spontaneous creation, and the other an all-white refurbished model that's traded its Mind Stone for the cold heart of an assassin. So, which one is the real vision? Let's jump into the episode right as the visions are having a debate about which of them is in fact the actual vision, because whichever one is the real one is about to be brutally killed by White Vision.
But I'm not the true vision. Only a conditional vision. You are familiar with the thought experiment, the Ship of Theseus, in the field of identity metaphysics.
Okay, so I honestly never thought I would hear the phrase identity metaphysics in an MCU property, but then again, I never thought O.J. Simpson would post a video to Twitter about how important it is to get a COVID vaccine.
Take care, stay safe, get your shot.
So hey, you never know what life is going to throw at you. Now, identity metaphysics is a way of talking about the relationship between an object and itself. Or in other words, the physical object and the idea of the object. Okay, that sounds confusing, but there's a difference between the physical assortment of bones, skin, and various allergies that I'm made of, and the idea of me. That is, Michael Burns, great friend, loving partner, and hot sauce enthusiast. So how do I know that this specific assortment of bones and stuff is me? And how do I keep that identity over time, from wee little baby Michael to cranky old man Michael? Okay, let's watch Sociopath Vision explain.
Naturally. The Ship of Theseus is an artifact in a museum. Over time, its planks of wood rot and are replaced with new planks. When no original plank remains, is it still the Ship of Theseus?
Speaking of allergies, I think White Vision could use some Nasonex. Okay, so the Ship of Theseus paradox helps us think about the relationship between what a thing is made of and what a thing is. Lots of philosophers have written about this, but we can start with Athens' hottest bachelor, Aristotle. For Aristotle, a thing's identity has less to do with what it is and more to do with what it does. And he gets at this through considering objects in terms of 4 causes: what a thing is made of, what a thing should be, what makes a thing what it is, and the purpose of the thing, what he calls the final cause, which is most essential in terms of identity. For example, the final cause of a knife is cutting stuff up. In terms of the ship, for Aristotle, its true identity would have less to do with the planks of wood, or the building of a boat, or the person putting it together, and more to do with its final cause, i.e., being a vessel that floats on water so me and the boys could get hammered at noon while singing sea shanties. God, I love those guys. But there is also another part of the story.
Secondly, if those removed planks are restored and reassembled free of the rot, is that the Ship of Theseus?
So, which is the original? The one with all the original materials, or the original that's slowly been replaced? This framing of whether or not a new vessel constructed out of the planks from the old vessel is still the true Ship of Theseus leads us to consider things in a more material way. And under this framework, the identity of the ship is defined in relation to the physical planks that make up the ship, not the purpose of that thing. But it's not without problems. Let's say the new and improved ship is no longer the Ship of Theseus. Does that mean that as I get replaced atom by atom as I age, that I become a whole new person? And if that's true, am I liable for the student loans that a different version of my person took out? I don't think so. But René Descartes touched on this problem in human terms with his concept of mind-body dualism. To keep it extremely brief, he argued that you are more defined by your thinking mind, which he calls a soul, and less so by your physical body. So if I did a Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan, it'd be me with gorgeous strawberry blonde locks and a grossly unappreciated acting career. So now we have 2 conflicting frameworks: a physical definition of identity against a more mental-based identity. And Wandavision goes all in on this distinction, asking, is Wanda's vision the real vision due to him having the spirit and characteristics of the original vision, or is White Vision the real vision because he is in the same physical body as the original vision? What does our robot buddy think?
Neither is the true ship. Both are the true ship.
Oh, thanks. That cleared it up. But really, this is why they call it a paradox, because it seems that both ships and neither ship is the true ship. In this case, White Vision's digital brain is stuck in the paradox as he can't decide who in the heck the actual Vision is. Let's get back to it for a second.
Well, then we are agreed. But I do not have the Mind Stone.
Okay, there's 2 ways to read this comment, because the Mind Stone lore is very complicated. In one sense, White Vision is saying he doesn't possess a crucial physical characteristic of being Vision. He's no more Vision than a building without books is a library. But also, the Mind Stone is a thinking substance that Descartes might even say has a soul. So in one sense, White Vision is saying, I don't have the soul of Vision, but Wanda's vision has a good comeback.
And I do not have 1 single ounce of original material.
Ooh, got him. Now, Wanda's vision is saying that he's not the real Vision because he doesn't possess any of the original material of Vision, even though he was made from the Mind Stone. So if we wanted to find the true Vision by all the physical stuff that constitutes Vision, none of us are Vision, so stop hurting him. But wait, things are about to get a little funky.
Perhaps the rot is the memories, the wear and tear of the voyages, the wood touched by Theseus himself.
Okay, so here, to escape the paradox, Wanda's vision introduces a new way of thinking about the problem. One that just so happens to be similar to John Locke's take on the whole situation. We've covered some of this in our video on cyberpunk, so check that out if you want. Vision is basically saying, isn't identity all the awful things we experienced along our voyage through the monstrous abyss of life? Well, for Locke, that's basically right. A little less grim, though. Locke's take is, even if you slowly have every single atom in your body replaced, you still remember being you. Memory, in other words, makes identity. And in this whole ship metaphor for vision, those experiences, the memory of them, the wear and tear, that's what makes the ship unique. And White Vision is about to learn this Lockean lesson.
I have not retained memories, but you do have the data. It is merely being kept from you. A weapon to be more easily controlled. But certainly you are the true vision for you believe yourself to be.
And here, White Vision is reminding us that hurt people hurt people. But this isn't so much a philosophical point, but White Vision doesn't have access to his memories at the moment, which in Locke's terms would make him definitely not the real Vision. Also, it's important to differentiate between knowledge of a thing, that is data about something, from I remember personally experiencing this thing, which is a memory.
That was once the case. But upon meeting you, I have been disabused of that notion. May I?
Gotta ask for consent. I think this is what it's like to take DMT.
I am Vision.
Well, that's that. White Vision, having had his memories restored, can now accept his identity as Vision. It's unclear whether he's going to destroy himself or what at this point, but regardless, this all seems to more or less affirm a Lockean view of identity. Accessing Vision's memories leads him to acknowledge that he is, in fact, real Vision, rather than just a rando inhabiting his new and improved corpse. So, case closed. Not so fast. It would be remiss of me to not raise one final perspective on the Ship of Theseus stuff. It's all bull, which is not my personal stance, but it does seem weird for a couple of AI dudes to fall into a paradox that might just be a result of our dumb human brains. As linguist Noam Chomsky argues, our brains are hardwired to perceive what he calls psychic continuity in the world, even when it doesn't exist. Like if a witch turned me into a toad, even a small child would inherently understand that the toad was me. But according to Noam, it's not. It's a toad in a baseball cap. In other words, the Ship of Theseus or vision paradoxes are not about reality, but the nature of our cognitive systems, i.e., they're less about reality and more about our feeble attempts to make sense of reality.
So there's no point trying to solve the philosophical problem. The problem is an epistemological one. It's something about the nature of our cognitive systems.
It's a bit too edgy logic, bro, for my more classical sensibilities, but still an interesting take. Anyway, setting Chomsky's skepticism aside, overall, I think the show actually did a pretty good job of working in an ancient philosophical paradox in a way that both made sense and actually created some good character conflict. So there you have it. I'm either my body, my mind, my memories, or absolutely nothing. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Can't breathe right now because what if Chomsky's right? But what do you guys think? Is White Vision on a mission of self-annihilation, or will he somehow find redemption in his true identity? Let us know what you think in the comments, and definitely let us know if there are other shows and movies you think are worthy of a philosophical reaction. Big thanks to our patrons for all your support. Hit that subscribe button like you're street fighting your doppelganger, and don't forget to ring that bell. And as always, thanks for watching. Later. That's traded its mind stone for the heart of a cold stone assassin. That would be like ice cream. That's not it. I'm going back. A cold stone assassin who goes in and says, "Give me the ice cream or I'll kill you."